What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Man, there was some serious stuff going on yesterday with the indie presentation from Nintendo, and man, were there some good announcements in there. I think most of you probably know the big one that we're going to be getting to probably right away since it's on the thumbnail, of course. I'm talking about No More Heroes and an very interesting idea and premise around that game. Of course, there are a lot of other games to talk about, so, let's just get started. So yeah, right away, it was at the end of the presentation. I want to talk about it first, though. The No More Heroes game that is coming. We already knew there was some kind of No More Heroes games coming from Suda51, although this is much different than I think most of us assumed was going to be here. So, of course, the trailer shows Travis Touchdown. By the way, it's called Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. It is, of course, a Switch exclusive, as we would assume, since they appeared on the Nintendo stage earlier in the year when they were showing off the Switch for the first time. But what's interesting here is there's some description here, some fine print that some people may have missed. Apparently, Travis will be journeying, or at least going into different indie games and fighting bosses. Of course, the trailer originally showed what appeared to be Hotline Miami being played on the TV, which was really cool to see that, because that means, as crazy as it sounds, we will have Travis Touchdown entering from, we could assume, Hotline Miami. Yes, that's right, a No More Heroes and a Hotline Miami crossover. So there are supposed to be 6 in total according to the description of the game. We assume we know 1 right now, which is obviously Hotline Miami, but now we got to try to figure out what other indie games could be included in this. This is, I think, a crossover that a lot of smaller indie games would love to be in, and really this is a great idea because it could bring some lesser known indie games kind of into the limelight here. Really, this kind of shows just how popular indie games have become over time here, how you can be a small studio and still make a large impact on the gaming community. Look at something like Stardew Valley that was mostly developed and created by one person with obviously help from freelancers and stuff throughout. I'm sure they did get some help, but for the most part, one person develops that game and really takes over the gaming community. So I love the direction here, by the way. This seems like such a fresh idea for No More Heroes and Suda51 to do, and really, they could kind of take their time and slowly reveal different worlds as we go forward. Like, oh, Travis Touchdown's gonna go visit something from Digital Devolver. Maybe it's, or Devolver Digital. Maybe it's like Serious Sam, people were saying. Or really, you can look at a lot of the different indie games. Most of them would probably love to be a part of this, so any of them could be included here, and it's going to be really cool to see when they announce them as to how they announce them. I don't think they're going to put a big press release out that gives us all of them. They have a really cool way to probably hopefully release them over time, or you get one world and maybe they talk about 2 different worlds, and then over a staggered release essentially. And now we get to try to figure out what is going to be included here. Yes, it's also running Unreal Engine 4, so it's going to be running a good middleware program from Epic Games, as they described pretty much in the trailer. They show a nice little snippet at the bottom. Yes, Unreal Engine 4 middleware from Epic Games, and that's great because it's going to look good. We don't know. We assume that was just a cinematic. None of that was in-game, and now we're trying to also figure out, when they go to the game world, this indie world, right? Let's say they go to Hotline Miami. Is it going to all of a sudden kind of adopt Hotline Miami's look? Or is it just going to keep one visual style across and just rebuild each indie game in Unreal Engine 4 and kind of have the No More Heroes look from his point of view? That is what the big question is right now, and we're going to have to find out when they give us more gameplay. Not slated till 2018, of course. I think most of us figured that. We would have heard about it if it was coming out 2017 by now. So sometime 2018, no release date yet, but we'll just keep an eye on this game. And then probably the other big release, or at least reveal, was right away. Right away, it runs right into Super Meat Boy. We were talking about it in the pre-show. If you're with us live, you probably heard us talking about Super Meat Boy a lot. We were expecting it there. And it appears that this is a Super Meat Boy sequel, almost, called Super Meat Boy Forever, and it sounds awesome. If you're a Meat Boy fan, this is what you want. It sounds like as you play through the levels, they will get harder, which is weird. Like, I guess, I don't know if they're just generated, like, procedurally, like they're just generated randomly or something, and, oh, you jumped over 1 buzzsaw, well, here's 2. Good luck on that. And that's gonna be great, because that means you can keep playing through the levels and get more challenges out of it. So it sounds like a game you can keep playing, well, I don't know if it's forever, but a lot longer than the original, and get a different experience throughout. Of course, you'll try to beat people's scores, times, all of that stuff, but this looks like the game that if you're a Super Meat Boy fan, you probably hit the roof when you saw this, because this is a game I think fans have been waiting for a while. And apparently, from what we're seeing, it's going to launch exclusively on the Nintendo Switch. I'm not sure if it's a timed release, like where it's exclusive on the Switch for a little while and then it goes to other platforms. All we know right now, it is a launch exclusive game for the Switch. That is a big pickup, by the way, from Nintendo. Then we went through from there, got a bunch of release dates for other indie games, such as Golf Story, which I'm really excited for, by the way, September 27th. They also showed Disc Golf, which was cool. A couple other ones, Floor Kids, which we didn't really understand what was going on, seemed like a rhythm game, Holiday 2017. SteamWorld Dig 2, which was a game a lot of people were looking forward to, September 21st. Only gonna have to wait about 3 weeks for that one, which is great. There was like a shooter, like a Morphe's Law shooter. No release date, just know that it's wintertime. That's a console exclusive apparently. And then a few others, 9 Parchments, Holiday 2017. And overall, it was an awesome presentation. I love indie games, like I said, and Nintendo really delivered here alongside these indie companies. So hats off to everybody. It was great. And Indie at Nights, I guess, is tonight, I believe. Thursday night it should be. So we'll see if any other announcements are there. We should see NBA and we should see Rocket League. So that is also something I'm excited for. Great overall. The future looks good for the Switch in terms of indie games. Now it's up to Nintendo to deliver with those first-party games, make sure they're quality, and then pick up a couple other bigger third-party games, such as one other game that we did get a trailer for before this indie presentation, Lost Sphear. Overall, the trailer showed gameplay and everything, which looks kind of like I Am Setsuna, so if you're okay with that art style, you'll like it here as well. What's great is we did, of course, give us the release dates at the end, October 12th for Japan, and January 23rd in the US on all platforms, PC, Switch, and PS4. What I really liked about this, though, is it seems to have some callbacks to Xenogears. I was actually talking about it the other day on Twitter. I would love to see Square give some love to Xenogears. Well, in this game, you actually have, well, mechs that you pilot. So it has that kind of that look of Xenogears, that isometric look, and it looks like they're pulling in mechs. So I'm pretty happy for this too. This is going to be a great RPG. I Am Setsuna was good, and it looks like they're going really to the next level with this game, keeping the same visuals, but it looks like it's going to be a little deeper than what I Am Setsuna was, and we'll just have to wait till the end of January to get a hold of it. Check out that trailer, though, because it looks like an old-school RPG fan's dream. Somebody who was a big fan of the PS1 games, this one's right up your alley. Next up, we did get Media Create sales for the week prior. That should be August 21st to August 27th, and as you would expect, Monster Hunter Double Cross for the Switch was at the top, although it didn't get past 100,000 units, which to some people that seems disappointing. You'll see the chart here. Monster Hunter Double Cross Nintendo Switch version sitting at 84,277. Splatoon 2 right behind that one, 54,443. Dragon Quest XI takes up the next 2 spots, and the Mega Dimension Neptunia takes up that 5th slot. Snack World falls to number 6. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at number 7. The hardware sales were pretty impressive for the Nintendo Switch. Not much for anything else, but the Switch definitely owned Japan, as you're going to see here. 69,650. That is up massively from last week. I assume, like I was saying before, they're probably trying to get stock into stores for Monster Hunter Double Cross. 3DS 25,210, PS4 24,658, and then the Vita still, I mean, it fell a little bit, obviously, down to about 4,000 units, but it's still pretty good for a handheld that Sony seems to have forgotten about. Big thing here for the Switch, though, it did cross 1.5 million units sold through, and it did this in 6 months or so. That is really good. That's actually very impressive that it's going to be crossing that actually before, technically it's before 6 months now I think about it. That is very impressive. That's very fast. That's like it's going to pass the PS4 possibly next year fast. So, especially as the production of the Switch gets better and better and Nintendo is able to probably supply more units in its second year as opposed to its first, do not be surprised if the Switch just passes by the PS4 next year. Seriously, you might be surprised with how quick they can pass the PS4, because the PS4 is sitting at roughly 5.25 million units. That's something that the Switch, if it did 1.5 million in a supply constrained first 6 months, if the next year, let's say next 12 months, let's say 6 of those 12 months, especially in the back end, supply is not an issue. You could see it quickly pass the PS4 out of nowhere. So it's gonna be interesting to see really the climb for the Switch here and see, I guess, where it tops off. Because I look at this, I see the 3DS at like 22 or 23 million, and I kind of compare to the Switch to that number. That could be how many Switches end up in people's hands in Japan, which is absolutely ridiculous to think. And a quick update to a story from yesterday's Newswave where we talked about Sonic having that online only like DRM issue where you had to be connected to the internet or it wouldn't work. Despite, well, the DRM de novo having the ability to be offline as well, well, it looks like they've at least fix that issue. In their mind, it was a bug, apparently, as to why it wouldn't work offline, but at least Sega of Europe over on Twitter gave us an update saying, the Sonic Mania PC offline play bug has now been patched. Thanks for your patience, and let us know if you experience any further problems. Now, the DRM is still there. It's still there. People still don't like it. There are controller issues that are going on, apparently. And overall, it seems like it was a very rocky release for the PC. At least they got the always online bug fixed. But man, they are not having an easy time with this game being released. So hopefully they get it worked out. Hopefully they just pull that DRM off. You don't need it. It's not that big of a deal. But at least that issue's fixed up and you can play offline Sonic now. So good. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Sea of Thieves for a minute. Now, we've talked about it a bit because I think it's going to be a fun game. It looks pretty cool, looks comical, looks like it could just be one of those really just sit down and just have some fun games without being too serious overall. Well, it looks like the developers want everyone to be able to enjoy this game because they're including a mode that seems to be a very low resolution and low frame rate cap mode where it's going to be 540p at a capped 15 frames per second. Now, according to the developers for Sea of Thieves, people said they liked playing at 15 frames per second and they had no problem with 540p. I don't really know a lot of people that want to play at 15 frames per second, so they decided to add this option apparently after feedback from fans. But if you've played a game at 15 frames per second, it's not an enjoyable experience, so I'm really not sure who said you should do a 15 frames per second option or a 540p option. The only thing I think of with 540p is maybe there's somebody who just has a terrible computer when it comes to gaming and they want to play, but they cannot even play at 720p. Well, there you go. 540p. That's less than, I guess, 800 by 600. So there's that. You could play on what I assume to be a potato at that point. I guess we'll be testing that when it comes out. Now, I'll see if the old GTX 970 can handle 540p and 15 frames per second. Hopefully it can. Let me know if this is something that you personally would need, or maybe you were someone who requested it. I really would like to talk to someone who requested 15 frames per second as a mode, just to see where their thought process is there. I don't know, it sounds weird. And that's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me think about any of the stuff we talked about today, whether it is the Nindies from Nintendo. Did you like that presentation? I thought it was great. And let me know what game you think is gonna be like the best out of that entire thing. I mean, other than No More Heroes. A lot of us are really excited for that game. Give me one that's coming out in 2017 that you're really looking forward to. That should narrow the playing field a little bit there. Maybe it's Golf Story, maybe it's SteamWorld Dig 2. It could be anything, really. Just let me know what you think of that indie presentation, and what indie game do you think could be entered into one of those 6 worlds, I guess 5 since we figure Hotline Miami is one of them, into those 5 different worlds from No More Heroes. Which indie game do you think would work well with Travis Touchdown just randomly dropping in? That's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.